Good evening and welcome to another segment of Coffee with the Bishop. But this is a very special one, COVID-19. We understand that this virus has done a great deal of damage in our communities. And we want to talk about some of those things and how we can be better prepared to move through this pandemic and make sure that we can come out of it with more than just victory, but become triumphant. And I want to say that most of us in our communities of color, we have to make sure that we do the right thing. I see a lot of times when I'm not only watching the news or I'm going through some areas, you don't want to put your mask on, you don't want to wash your hands. You got to wash your hands, you got to not put it in your face, you got to put your mask on. The life you save is not only yours, but somebody else that's in your home. Do the right things and make it work so that we can know that we're doing all we can. Over 90,000 deaths, come on now, this virus has taken. And maybe we're taking it too light, some of us. We think it can't happen to us. But trust me, it can happen in a blink of an eye. And people are losing loved ones really quick. And not just one, but they're losing 2 and 3 in a family at a time. We need to wisen up as a people. We need to wisen up as a community, and we need to be there for one another. And my prayer is that that's what we will do. I know Pennsylvania is a praying state, and certainly the power of voting, they love to vote. Well, let's make sure we do those things and do them right. And let's stand up for what we know to be right. And when you see somebody walking, you don't just yell at them and say, hey, did you put your mask on today? A lot of people don't think they have to do it, but trust me, we need to do it. This is a serious time, and we need to take things seriously. As we have some special guests with us today, and I'm excited. So if you see this big Kool-Aid smile come on my face, you need to know it's powerful tonight. It's on and popping tonight. I have none other than the president of the NAACP, Krista Corsorez. She's on with us. Good evening. How are you, Krista?
Good evening, Bishop. How are you? It's always a pleasure to be with you and your church family and all the people that are watching, not just here in Monroe County and the Poconos, but throughout the country, because your reach is far. Yes. Just want to say good evening. I'm always honored to be with you.
And we're honored to have you. So we're set for you. And then I have none other than that Bishop Anthony Gibson, all the way from Sumter, South Carolina. Oh, Grace Cathedral, right there in Sumter, South Carolina. A great leader, great pastor, great worker in his community. And he brings a lot to this table tonight. Good evening, Bishop Gibson.
Bless you, sir. So glad to be on tonight, to my family in the Poconos, and also to everyone watching on Facebook Live. It's an honor to be on tonight. Thank you all for having me.
And I know we're glad to do so. And if you all are glad to have him on here, just put your thumbs up and hearts and all of those things and hashtags. We're grateful for you joining us today. You can join us on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. So if your friends can't get on Facebook, tell them come on over to YouTube. Don't miss what's about to happen in this short period of time that we have to talk about the things that are going on. Now, Krista Casares, she's a powerful woman in her own right. And I want to leave the floor open to her because there's some things she needs to say, especially we want to start off with the power of voting and getting those things together so that you can make sure that your vote count. Krista.
Absolutely, no question about it. Most people that know me know one thing. I am all about the vote because there's so much power in it. There is absolute power in your hands. I know that a lot of us have taken advantage of the mail-in ballots. You've applied for them, and that's fantastic. But I have troubling news that I must announce. It seems as though in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, only 6% of African Americans have taken advantage of the vote by mail option. And I cannot stress enough that it is imperative that you do one or the other. It does not matter if you vote by mail. It does not matter if you vote in person, but you must do one or the other. This year is as critical as it has ever been. This is not a drill. As you know, our hashtag has said on our Monroe County NAACP page. This is not a game by any stretch of the imagination. We need solid leadership in this country. We need solid leadership in our Commonwealth, and we need solid leadership in our townships. And it is vitally important, wherever you are in the country, whatever state you live in, it is vital that you participate in the process. Why? Because you have the power. If you did not have the power, they would not work so hard to keep you from voting. A lot of people don't think about that, but that's something that you must remember. Voting is power, Bishop.
And power it is. To you, Bishop Anthony Gibson, what do you say from your area? Because you're in a town also.
Well, you know, where we live, we have our area is over 50% African American. And we have to be intentional right now about voting, because right now where we are, you know, in South Carolina, a lot of things are happening. And honestly, we do need new leadership. So we are admonishing all of you to please go out, vote, whether it be by mail, or make sure you go to the ballot box and place your vote, because we need to make sure that all of us go out and make our voices heard. Please go out and vote.
Okay, and one of the things I want to say about that is very, very important. If you're not going to go out and vote, make sure you do the mail-in. Because some of you already anticipate long lines. But here we have to get it in before June 2nd, okay? So you need to pay attention. You need to make sure you get the information. Go on to pa.gov, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm quite sure Carissa could tell us what we need to do in that, and Krista in that department. But I want to also say to you, don't only just do that. Listen, there's something very important you need to understand. Let me take a deep breath when it comes to the power of voting. If you want to change, be about the change. And if you're going to be about the change, put that change and power in your vote. Be counted, not just laying back talking about what you want to see happen. Make it happen. Carissa, Krista.
It's Krista.
Yes.
I couldn't agree more, Bishop. And as I said, as I say often, if you want a movement, you must move.
Yes.
So it is imperative that if you have not yet registered to vote, if you're going to miss the primary, the deadline actually to register was yesterday. So we've missed that. If you're already registered and you do want to participate, again, be sure to check with your Board of Elections to make sure that your normal polling place is still going to be the same. I do anticipate some consolidations of polling places, and you certainly don't want to arrive and not have, you know, the place set up for you to do what you need to do. So certainly be proactive, contact your Board of Elections, either Monroe County, Pike County, find out where your polling place will be for certain. Make sure you have your mask, make sure you have your gloves, because we've moved to paper ballots. Take your own pen, your own marker, and be prepared to wait in line. But hey, it's all about the power, and it's all about the results, and that's what it's about. Less talking, more results.
I like you said, less talking, more results. See what I'm saying? Plan of action. We need to have a strategy, and whatever we can do to get people to the poll, we need to do so. If you want change, listen, don't let Big Mama stay in the house. Don't let Little Mama stay in the house. Bring her out, get her out there so she can get her vote in. Tell Pop, get up, get up, get up. You can vote, okay?
That's right.
Listen, those of you that are young and you're 18 years old and older, you need to get ready to put that vote in and be counted and help us make the right decision to get somebody in that's going to lead our country and take us somewhere great. Amen. I had to just say amen to that. I got to come back to Bishop Gibson and let him fill in on some more of that. Come on, Bishop Gibson.
See, he already started preaching, but we know that Miss Krista has some valuable information that she wants to put out. All I'm saying is this: faith without works is dead. So you're going to have to go ahead and put your feet, get out of the house, make sure you show up and vote. Make sure you're online watching the dates so you won't miss any voting dates. I know in South Carolina, June 9th is fastly approaching, and we got to make sure that we're in place for our cities and also our states. So make sure that you're in place to vote.
Okay, and when he said that, one of the things that's very important, today I made sure I called Monroe County, and I wanted to make sure I was in where I was going to be going to vote. If I had to go vote, but I'm mailing mine in, thank God. But if I had to vote where I had to go, I made sure my name was on the list. I got everything together, because trust me, in this election, there's a lot of stuff that's going to go on. But if you go and do your work, your homework, get your stuff together, make sure you're in place, you know where you're going, you know the time the polls open, you know what time they close, you make sure your name is out there, then you don't have to worry about everything. You make sure your ID is correct. Did you hear me? Make sure
Yes.
your
Yes.
ID, okay, identification is correct. Make sure your license isn't expired, okay?
Yeah.
And even though they say they'll give us something from the Department of Motor Vehicles concerning our identification or our driver's license to give you an extension, make sure you get that extension taken care of, but going to get your license and everything taken care of.
That's
I just
right.
had to get all that in there because it's very important. Which leads me to this. Okay, I'm feeling really good today. Which leads me to this, that during this time of the pandemic, we've watched how people have marched and opened up America, and some have marched peacefully, but most I've seen march with guns and up in police officers' faces, and they're shouting. And I think about this when I say this, is that's like, wow, look at this. And I think about had that been a man or a woman of color, or we came in a group and we had some guns in our hands, and we gonna walk up to the police officers and shout, open up our cities, that wouldn't have been the same routine. It would have never went down like that. We would have had a couple of people would have been hurt, wounded, and might have been even shot dead. And so we see that there's a double standard in our America, and it has never changed to begin with. But it seems like we're going backwards instead of forward. And then I'm going backwards instead of forward. I'm looking at what happened to Mr. Arby, and a young man, 25 years old, running through a neighborhood, and jogging, I want to say running, jogging through a neighborhood, did stop, look in a house, like others have stopped to look in a house, but nothing was done. But he went in, and it was already set up to say, we're going to see what he's doing. And when he came out, how do we have a young man, 25 years old, dead, and it would have never been looked at until it made media, and we had to pay attention to it. It was brought to our attention where that happened, when you had a former police officer that was involved with this, and the person did not even try to arrest him, although they can't find her now, but they didn't even arrest him, but now they're being charged with murder. But before that, it was all going to be swept under the rug. It reminds me of Mr. Zimmerman. I'll let either one of you, of my guests, talk about that if you would.
Miss Krista, please, you go.
Okay, I have to make sure that I pace myself because I could go on for hours. But this case is troubling, but it's not unusual. It's hurtful, but it's not surprising. It's a call to action, but will we answer the call? How much longer do we have to tolerate our unarmed Black men and women, our unarmed, sons and daughters, our unarmed sisters and brothers, to be gunned down in the street for no other reason than the color of our skin? We've gotten to the point, I think, where we're numb. I think it happens so often, and when we see court cases go the wrong way, when we see injustices occur, so frequently, we start to get numb. And I'm here to say, I'm hopeful that this time, and not just with Mr. Ahmaud Arbery, may he rest in peace. And we also want to talk about Breonna Taylor, yes, from Louisville, Kentucky. A 26-year-old, I believe, emergency medical technician on the front lines, an essential worker working in 2 emergency rooms during the COVID-19 pandemic to try to help other people. Gunned down in her own apartment while she was asleep, or she was awakened from her sleep with her partner, who was licensed to carry, by 3 armed Louisville police officers with a no-knock warrant, which meant they didn't have to knock, they didn't have to identify themselves, but they're expecting people inside to know who they are. And when the people inside legally and rightfully did what anyone would do at 1 a.m. when someone kicks their door open, he pulled his legal firearm and fired. As a result, the Louisville Police Department fired 20 shots at them. 8 of those bullets struck Miss Taylor, and she is no longer with us. And I just have to wonder, what's going to be the catalyst for us as a community? What is it going to honestly take for us as a people to really come together and to really say, this is it right here. We're not going to tolerate this. The only way that it's really going to change, in my mind, would be 2 ways. We get the proper people in office. And in my mind, that does not mean sitting out, not voting, bad mouthing the process. It's about being engaged on every single level. When I hear celebrities in general say things like, oh, well, our vote, our vote's not for sale and you're going to have to earn our vote. You're right. And I'm in full agreement with all of those things. Our vote should be earned because for one party, we are the base. For one party, it's not about having a seat at the table. We are the table. So when we know that and when we believe that, we have to move in that fashion. And it's about having our celebrities and having the people in our community that is of means and does have the wealth fund candidates of color on every level of the electoral process. I'm talking about from the street level, the local level, township supervisors, mayors, constables, school board, right up to state representatives and state senators, right up to governors, right up to Congress, so on and so forth, until we flood the system with people that look like us. And we get used to supporting people that look like us. This will happen again and again and again, sadly.
Yes.
And it will happen, sadly, again. And it can happen in anybody's community. And that's what I'm so saddened by. Today, it didn't hit your community, but you don't know what tomorrow brings. Bishop Gibson?
Yes, sir. Well, being totally honest, if we want to be truly honest about what's happening, we have to go back and look at how people of color are painted, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not only our elections, but it's also, we have to hold media to a higher standard. Because I think when you always see, they'll never show the average man of color working, taking care of his family, paying his bills, a law-abiding citizen. They'll never show him in the media. But anytime we do anything that's wrong, it's blasted in the media as if we are monsters. So we have to find a way to hold the media accountable to make sure that you're not painting us, the wrong way, so we're handled a certain way. Not only that, but we got to put new laws in place to make sure that we're doing our research on the people that we're making law enforcement. I'm pretty sure Ms. Krista knows that there's a large number of Caucasian law enforcement who are a part of some supremacy group where you don't see people of color as human beings. You see them as objects. Anytime you see somebody as an object,
that's right,
it's easy for you to dehumanize them and take their life as if they have no value. And that's a problem. So what has to happen is you got to do your research, and these guys that want to be law enforcement, go back and check and be honest. And if you see anything there, don't put them on the force, because now when they come in our neighborhoods, there is no breaks. It's shoot first, and then after that, they have a system in place to make sure you cover law enforcement. I think that we got to put some new laws in place to hold them at a higher standard, and they must be punished because the law is for the lawless. I don't think there's really no laws to govern cops, so they're able to get away and justify what they do. They're able to walk, create their own narrative, and then when they get in front of the court system, all they have to say is, oh, go check his record. He did something 10 years ago. He's a criminal. And then you take his life. So there should be new laws for law enforcement. We must do a better job with media, because we're painted as if we're monsters and criminals. And all of us are not monsters. And so there needs to be an overhaul. And it's on more than one front. And our politicians, and one of the things that we must remember, our taxes pay law enforcement. So they work for us. End of the day. And so
that's right.
And our politicians, you work for us. So the things that's important to us, we got to make sure that we back those things and put the right people in place because if people of color are getting shot on a daily basis nationwide, you're almost trying to eliminate our race. It doesn't happen in the Asian community, the Indian community, it's not as high in the Hispanic community. But when it comes to us, I think there's over 40 million Black people in this country, over 40 million. That's too many of us dying at the hands of law enforcement. And something has to be done other than we're getting on Facebook arguing about what's happening. And to go back to the young man, Ahmaud, he died in February. If there wasn't social media, if there was no social media, they would still be on the streets. Because we made enough noise, they had to go ahead and lock the father and the son up, who is a retired cop. Here's my question I ask myself. If you're retired and you took this young man's life, when you were actually on the force, how many lives did you take?
Krista?
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
That was very powerful. I'm sitting here with my mouth like,
Can I please just jump in? Can I please just jump in on that?
Yes.
That was good stuff, Bishop. Let me just I just want to piggyback on that because I've been doing a lot of looking on social media myself. You know, a lot of our local people were very active on Facebook, and a lot of our local candidates, you know, they have their pages on Facebook. And I've just casually over the past couple of weeks, you know, checked one here, checked one there. And some of these people, you know, I do consider a friend. Some of these people, you know, I consider, you know, a colleague and people that I respect at least for the work that they've done and work that they've tried to do. But I have to say, I'm a little disappointed that something like an Ahmaud Arbery case can happen. But I go to your page and you're running for re-election or you're running to be elected, and I don't see any comments from you about this case. One of the things we always should be mindful of, especially if we're looking to become an elected official, is that we do serve all of the people. And if there is a segment of the population that is underserved or ignored or maybe even abused, I think that you have an obligation to address the issues confronting that community. Now, in just an effort to hold you accountable, it's not to be critical, but it is to hold you accountable because that's our job as taxpayers, and that's our job as a constituent, is to hold you accountable. So I will say it's been very troubling for me to see two things, and this will segue into something I know Bishop may want to talk about. I didn't see any candidate for office or re-election talk about the Ahmaud Arbery situation. We need to be proactive. You know, I didn't think that two Black men in a Starbucks in Philadelphia would have been kicked out, right? That would have, you know, that happening would never have crossed my mind in this Commonwealth, but it happened. So how are we preparing for what could be the inevitable, God forbid, Ahmaud Arbery in Pennsylvania? Are we examining our laws in the Commonwealth to make sure that there are no loopholes that would allow something like this to happen and these people to walk away? What are you doing and where is your focus when it comes to addressing these types of situations? These are the questions voters need to ask and candidates should be able to answer. The other thing that I found very troubling as I've been looking on Facebook, just generally speaking, is the way that unfortunately some politicians have decided to politicize the pain of this pandemic. And that's extremely troubling and disappointing because leadership is just that. You're supposed to lead a body of people who may not always agree with one another, but we have to live in peace. And when I see certain people doing their best to stir things up as opposed to make sure that we stay united and just respect each other's differences. It's okay that we don't agree about certain things. We may not agree about when we should open. We may not agree about which businesses should be open, but we should agree that we're all adults. We're all taxpayers. We all struggle. We're all in this together. And if we don't agree on that and we're taking sides in this situation, that's a recipe for disaster. And that does us no good as a community.
None whatsoever. And you made some things clear. One of the things I want to say, so I want people to understand, I understand there are great people out there that are really trying to help every nationality. And I understand that there are people who, there are some great cops, but as we always say, there's always that minute few that causes the biggest rift in our communities. And therefore, we as a community of leaders have got to sit down and have some dialogue with each other so that we can prepare our people, our children, our community, and get them, keep them much abreast about what's happening. And we need to also be able to sit down in forums so we can discuss what's actually happening so we'll know how to build a better community. I mean, I think that's one of the greatest things we could do if we have a time to sit down and talk, and not just talk, as they say, you come to the table and you eat and you get up, you go home. No, but when we go home, we take it home and we really work within our own homes, and then when we come back in our communities, you see what's in the home come out into the community, and our community has a lot more harmony to it. I know it can be done. I'm watching how when they did the pandemic and they really told us to stay in the very beginning, all of us was in. We was all in the house. You hear what I'm saying? Even the muggers and the robbers wasn't coming out to kill, okay? That was some heavy stuff. But then we became immune, feeling like we were immune to it. And when we have, well, let me say, we are led by examples. And when we are led and we are saying, it's almost like lives don't matter because folk gonna die anyway. Well, let's go back to this. If we presented how many black lives have been taken in the United States of America alone, from slavery till now, that is a great charge against us.
Yeah.
And you stated something, Bishop Gibson, when you were talking about you were right there in Sumter because Charlotte was the place where the slaves first came in. I want to talk about that because that's a very important part. People don't understand because we don't teach our children history.
Yeah. Well, Charleston, South Carolina, the first slaves came in America through Charleston. And I'm in the South. So in the South, I don't have to tell you all what it's like. You know, at the end of the day, even with this pandemic, and it's been documented, even in New York City, it's been proven that a lot of the people of color that had COVID-19 that needed to get treatment were left outside or not handled properly because of the color of their skin. There were nurses that's talking about this. And the reality is that even last night on CNN, if you go back and you watch it, one of the politicians said that a lot of the people of color, they have jobs where they're considered essential workers. So they have direct contact with people and contracting the virus. And the reality is, if we're honest, America, in order for it to function, whether we want to admit it or not, we always have to have a slave class. There has to be somebody that's going to do the work that our counterparts feel like those jobs are too small for us to do. And so what happens is people of color now that's battling this virus, for one, we don't get paid enough. That's number one. It's not equal pay. We know that. Number two, the other issue is we don't have proper health care. You see, so if you come in there with COVID-19 and you don't have health care or your benefits are not really in place, and we have somebody over here that have good insurance and we can charge more, well, let this person die and save this life. If we're honest and we're transparent and real, then we know that many people of color, especially in Atlanta right now, are dying at a much higher rate. And the reason why they're opening up the economy is because at the end of the day, our country, and don't get me wrong, I get it. Everybody wants to reopen. I understand businesses and I understand resources, but the true reality is what we're dealing with is money over lives, right? And so what's happening is many people of color that's trying to, and the Democrats are saying, don't reopen yet. Too many people are dying. But then we have our counterparts putting pressure on politicians to reopen because their wealth and their resources right now, they're hurting. And if we're honest, our people struggling is not something that we're foreign. Struggling is not foreign for us. We have struggled, but for them, many of them, they have not struggled. And so for them now to almost lose businesses and homes and things of that nature, they want the government reopened so they can go ahead and make money, which I understand. I'm not against that. But what I am saying is that the people of color are suffering right now because I have nurses in my church and some doctors in my local church, and they're telling me that the people of color are dying at a much higher rate. And if we're honest, now, not everywhere, because we have good doctors and, people are just trying to save lives. But in a lot of cases, that's not happening. And because we don't have proper health care, we don't have the resources, we're getting hit harder because we don't have the means to be sustained as a people, the majority. So honestly, right now with this COVID-19, it's wiped out a lot of people of color, a lot of our seniors, the baby boomers. And I'm going to be honest, and I will turn this over because I'm talking too much. A few years ago, I read an article in my church where they said the baby boomers were living too long. They said that they were living too long, and they were giving them the medicines to help them live too long, and Social Security was almost going to be bankrupt in a few years. And so watching some of these folk die off to them is not a problem because Social Security was in trouble anyway. The money that we put in are sustaining. Think about this. This is how people think. And I don't want to get too deep into this, but I'm already out there now. So let me put it this way. If we have baby boomers living in their 70s and 80s right now, and they're on a fixed income, and in the minds of people who are business minded, they're no longer contributing to society as it relates to financial obligations. So now we have to take care of them, pay them every month, give them health care. And now because we're giving them medicine supposedly, and they're living to be 84 and 85 and 90 years old, we have to pay these people all of these years. And you have minorities that qualify for that. If we kill them off, or if we allow the virus to hit some of them, then we'll recoup some of the money that we felt like we lost.
Well, you said a lot right there. You got something you want to say, Krista?
If I'm wrong, Miss Krista, please check me, please. I can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Sorry. Okay, we're good now. I'm sorry. Okay. One of the things I've come to learn, and I'm in complete agreement with you, Bishop Gibson. This country has to have an other class. There must be an other, and there must be authority. And there's a segment of this population that is enamored with authority and ruling and power. And I'm self-censoring.
Understood.
I'm getting everybody in trouble. I'm sorry.
Self-censoring. I'm self-censoring, but I will say this. Black people spend $1.2 trillion a year on things. We have money. We may not all have it together, we may not all have it in one pocket, but we have it. We must get to the point where we fully embrace the tactic of an economic shutdown. When Bishop Gibson was talking about the media and the portrayal and the representation of our people, we're not doing ourselves any good by continuing to watch their television, watching their commercials, which the ad revenue is making them richer beyond our even comprehension. We really must realize that, once again, go back to realizing our power, the power of our dollar, the power of our culture. So much of this country moves because of us. And we don't move as though that's the case, but it's absolutely the case. And until we're willing to make tough decisions and stand together and collectively move for the things that we want, politicians will continue to make promises they won't keep. We will continue to have our brothers and sisters dying in the street, and we will not get the quality health care we deserve. We will not get the living wages that we deserve. There's just so much that we're due and we're owed, but we must collectively come together and make it a reality. And we can. That's the good news. We can.
Yeah.
It's my dog. Good. I'm sorry.
Good. That's good.
I want to say that as you were talking, I thought about a lot of things that we have going on in our community. One of the things someone has sent to me is that there are a number of deaths that have happened in Monroe County, in this Pocono area, that have never been brought to light.
Oh, wow.
A lot of times we just don't understand what we're dealing with, the nature of our beasts in our communities or representing the offices. I never thought I would see prejudiceness as I have seen it when it's demonstrated when we had our former president, Barack Obama, that you can sit, cross your legs, don't do nothing. You can say no right in the middle of everything, vote everything down. I've never thought I would see that happen the way it happened. And then now that we come into this new era of our life, this new segment of our life, new season, however you want to put it, we're still dealing with the bigotry and the prejudiceness of people who are now boldly letting you know, hey, I won't even say the word, but that's the way it go. I'm on the west end of town, and we still have cars running up and down the street saying, hey, you ends. You know, of course I have to check myself, Krista, I don't have all that, everything. So I said, your mama. Okay, now I know I just said it. So if you heard I said it, I said it. Okay. So
we're not praying hard enough. We're not praying hard enough.
But see, what it is that I'm a child of the 60s. No, I didn't march in the civil rights, but I watched stuff on television. I watched those hoses be turned on people, dogs. We don't even teach our young people what really happened. We don't even talk about it. We say slavery was back then. We are in a new day. We don't need all of that. We allow everything to go on. We use the word in, the N word, and allow other people of other cultures to use it and not understand the impact of that word and what it really means. And it still stands that way in certain places in society today. So when I'm getting a little ahead of myself, calm down. Okay, so what I'm saying is, even with the COVID-19, that should bring us together. And it did for many people, and it brought all nationalities together. So I want you to hear that I said that. There were many nationalities that came together across the board, and we reached out to help one another. But then something came in called greed.
Yeah.
And it took away from that connectiveness that we have. And in our community, we have to have someone to come in and teach us, teach our young ladies. You know what I call this? A spiritual rape of death.
Wow.
Okay, we're being raped by death. Yeah. Some of it is self-inflicted because we won't do what we're supposed to do. And we are killing our own selves because we refuse to vote. We're told that our vote doesn't count, but it really does. Yeah. And I know they do things that make you feel like it's worth nothing, but it does count. And we have a right to say things. All right, Bishop Gibson, I'm going to close. I'm going to shut up right here. Go on.
Oh, no, I'm listening to you. You are absolutely right. That's powerful. Go ahead.
So I just want to see our communities come together. There are other people in our community, and I'm always naming them. They're trying to do great things. Bishop Williams with the food pantry and giving out food. And there are other leaders in our community, the Wesleyan Church, and those who are working. We have some great police officers that are doing great things in our community. But for that segment that is that small segment that take us through for no reason at all, that's where the stinger hurts the most. And unless we rise up and know who you're voting for. You know, I don't know where you are, Bishop Gibson, but we have like 3,000 signs in the street, and you don't know anybody that they're talking about, and they're all asking for a vote, but they don't come to you to get your vote. They have relied so much on the community, they say, we don't need you because you're not going to vote anyway. And they're the ones that make the decisions for our community, and they put the pressure in the right places, but they won't do it because we don't vote, and they don't even know what our thoughts are. Krista? Or no, Bishop Gibson, either one.
Miss Krista, please go ahead.
No, the frustration is real, and Bishop's aware. My dog, I'm apologizing. There's a cat outside in the backyard, and my dog is about to lose his whole mind on this cat. And so I do apologize. He's going to do what he does.
And we love cats,
but the
okay?
Bishop is right.
Nobody think we don't like cats.
That's right. No, I have no problem with it. Do what you do. No, but Bishop is right. You know, even especially here and especially in smaller towns like this, picking the right candidate is crucial. Doing the homework is crucial, but participating in the process, and not just participating in the process, aligning yourself with like-minded people and organizations such as the NAACP, such as, you know, NCNW, you know, such as the African American Network. We must start to think about how to collectively make our power work for us. And so I encourage people, if they're, you know, so inclined and they do have time to spare, you know, investigate these different organizations who are in the community doing great things. You have service organizations, and then like the NAACP, you have a civil rights organization. There are some organizations whose goals are to raise money through different means and, you know, give out food and clothe people, and help the homeless and things like that. That's a very integral part of our society, and that's something that, you know, should be applauded, and I do. And when I'm able to financially support those initiatives, I absolutely do, and I would encourage people to do the same thing. One of the things I think happens a lot is we think, oh, well, I just have $5. That won't make a difference. Send the $5. You would be surprised. If everybody sent $5, we could solve the problem. You know, It's not about the $50. It's not really about the $100 all the time. And also, real quick, because I know I could go on and on too. Here, boo. Sorry. One of the things that's frustrating for me, I think, you know, since I've been in office, just a short time now, but I truly have enjoyed being able to, you know, put on programs and lead the meetings and, you know, give out information that I think our community needs. One of the things that's troubling for me is that it's very, very easy to criticize. And that's something that I think we do a lot as a community, which is fine. Again, holding people accountable, I think is great. And I think it's necessary for growth. I think it's necessary for progress. So I'm not adverse to it. But I think sometimes, you know, there can be a little toxicity to it. And I think sometimes we are mercilessly critical. All progress is good progress, whether it's a baby step, it's a leap, you ran a marathon. In my mind, it's all the same because you're moving in the right direction. We must always remember to be as encouraging as possible. When we give feedback and we give criticism, you know, give feedback that's going to make something good come out of it, right? Not just be critical just to criticize. And if you feel that strongly about it, I know the NAACP doors are open. You can certainly go to naacp.org. Annual membership is just $30. Come and give us your opinion. Come and give us your body. Give us your volunteer spirit. Our organization is civil rights based, which means that our goal ultimately is to make sure that there's no discrimination, make sure that the laws are equal, that there is equity at that starting gate for every child and every adult. That's our mission. So while we don't necessarily, you know, do a lot of the feeding and the clothing, we're on the opposite side, making sure that we're holding our elected officials accountable, that we're encouraging people to vote and make sure we're putting the right people in place. And where there is discrimination, where there are laws that run adverse to our health, our well-being, and our survival, that we are having the proper legal people in place to go to court and get those things taken care of. So all of those things work together in a good community. All of those things work together for the betterment of our people. And ultimately, that's what it's about.
Bishop Gibson.
Yes, sir.
I want to give you a chance to say something because we're about to close our broadcast out, but I want to give you a chance to speak also before we close out.
Again, you know, everything she said was, just spot on. The reality is that all of us have to do our part. And I think if we're honest, the reason why we're having this Zoom meeting tonight on Facebook Live and YouTube is because we want equality and we want it to be fair across the board. And we want all lives to be valued, and we want the best for everybody. I don't care what color you are. And, sometimes in order for us to get to where we need to be, you got to confront some things because sometimes as we ignore it or as we just to say, well, you know what, hey, it'll get better. No, sometimes you got to be able to go ahead and say, you know what, if we don't confront this now, it's going to continue. And so it's not about
Mm-hmm.
a race. It's about the human race. It's about all of us are human beings.
Right.
And everybody on the planet,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what class you might think they're in, everybody wants to be treated properly.
Yes.
And everybody wants opportunity. And I think that we have to make sure as a people, especially as people of color, that we are intentional about making sure that we are letting our people know what's out there. I think a lot of times our people don't know what's out there. And even with voting and things of that nature, they don't really know, because we're not educating them enough. But I believe that as we do that, it will get better. And one of the things she said, that's a big, big deal. Let me tell you something. When you have over $1 trillion in buying power, you have some power.
Oh,
You have some power.
Amen.
And with that power, because at the end of the day, even if you don't like the color of my skin, you do like what's in my pocketbook. And
Trust.
so
Trust.
green
Trust.
trumps out color a lot of so we have to make sure that we're wise about our money. Our people don't know how to handle money. I want to say this as I'm closing my little segment out. When you get $1,200 of stimulus money, and a video goes up on Facebook at Greenbrier Mall in Atlanta of thousands of kids standing outside with no mask, waiting on Jordans, waiting on sneakers, that's a bad investment. So
Amen.
that proves to me that we're not educated enough financially to be able to be responsible enough to make certain decisions. So we have a lot of work to do as a people. And I think it starts tonight, because when you hear it, now it's not in the back of your mind, it's in the forefront. And we have to think and make sound decisions, quality decisions, not only for us, honestly, because I believe that all of us on the Zoom meeting tonight, truthfully, it's not even about us. It's about everybody connected to us,
Right.
and everybody that will come after us. And if we do our part, we'll make it better for the next generation.
And that is so true. You said that about the Jordan things, and I want to say I celebrate the fact that Jordan has his own sneakers, but I am seriously upset that the money was the stimulus money was loose during that time, because it took the money from what it should have went to in the household, and people were putting it on their children's feet for some sneakers.
Yes.
I want you to know I'm grateful for what Jordan has done, and I'm grateful for the many breakthroughs that he's been given, and opportunities that he's given, and helping his own communities, and how he reached back. Let me make that known. The brother reaches back, okay? But what I want to say is that when the stimulus money came out, and the $500 per child, we should have been trying to save some of that money, because we still got some long time. We still got a long way to go in this. And like my mother said, when it get cold, I used to buy all James Cleveland records. And it was winter outside. My mother said, when it got cold, I said, I got to get a coat. She said, go in there and put on James. So when it get cold, you can't put on Jordan. You need to be able to know that you have saved some of that money and done something well with it, because you don't know if it's going to come back around again. Well, our time is up, and I'm so glad we were on here together. I surely think, Krista Casares, I'm glad you were on here with me tonight.
Awesome.
Beautiful. And to you, Bishop Gibson, I'm so glad you were on here with me tonight, and all the people that have joined us and will join us after this when you go to review it. But I want you to leave with this one thing, knowing this one thing. We recognize that there are people who have helped all throughout this world and have crossed every barrier, every color line, and everything else that we're going, and have to help one another. We understand that. Our message today was to make our community aware that we've got to wake up. You know what Teddy Pendergrass said? Wake up, everybody. stop your sleeping in bed. All right, I ain't even go no further. I felt that right down on my toe. But anyway, wake up, everybody. And it's time for us to wake up and be counted. So in our communities, let's find some way, if we can do this, and I know we can, to put away whatever our differences are, or even what it is, our denominations. For a moment, let us come together and be able to put together a plan that will not only open up things for just for within our community, but we can be an example for other communities to follow. And I'm so grateful you joined me. I am your host, Bishop Kenneth L. Pierman. Tonight was a great night. I want to say I will see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. for that gospel thing called Let's See What Happens from the Audience Back Up to the Artist. That's at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. See you later. Have a great night, and God bless.
God bless.